Hey, it's all with another video covering the Dragonflight Alpha. Today we're going to revisit the notion of epic crafting in this expansion, like how it works, how hard is it worth it, and as usual, how mad should you be at other players for ruining it for you. If you don't mind, like the video, subscribe for more WoW and Dragonflight coverage, and we begin with the usual alpha talk. Everything here is most likely going to change. The point of this video is to get a overview, a general idea of what we're going to be expecting without getting too much or too lost in the numbers and the values. Epic crafting recipes are learned through various ways. Not all of them are known to us, but one method of learning this is through specializations. As a blacksmith, I decided to become the shield hero. I am going to make the shield that the masses want. So the shield that we're going to make is called the Primal Molten Defender, an item that's shown here. It says that it's bind on equip, although I won't be surprised if this changes. Also note that it doesn't mention an equip limit, which could also change in future builds. Anyway, to learn this recipe, I'll need to have leveled up my blacksmithing to 25, which unlocks the specialization tree right down here. As you can see, I can spec into a number of different tabs and then these branching paths. For the sake of simplicity though, we're going to focus on just unlocking this epic shield recipe. Putting 10 points into armor smithing lets me unlock one sub-specialization, and we'll choose large plate armor shown here. Each point you put into your specializations makes your crafting better, and there are milestones that you hit every couple of points as shown in the early graphic to the right here. 10 points into large plate armor lets me sub-spec into shields, which is where we're trying to go, and then 10 points into this lets me learn this shield recipe automatically. We don't have context as to how long it's going to take to obtain 30 of these specialization points, or what my own blacksmithing skill is likely to be by then, so keep that in mind. Just know that 30 points will get you this recipe. Now let's go to the recipe itself. You can see that there are required and optional reagents, and I'm going to speculate where these materials come from. You need one spark of ingenuity. According to an earlier blog from the World of Warcraft team, there will be soulbound reagents made available every few weeks in a quest. This is meant to control the rate at which gear like this is introduced into the market. I imagine that this is the material, accessible to everyone in very controlled quantities. Primal Chaos is an epic reagent that I speculate drops sort of like how Cosmic Flux is going to drop. It's going to appear in all sorts of content, from outdoor stuff like rares and daily quests, to the daily heroic maybe, perhaps the end of a Mythic Plus run, and raid bosses and PvP matches, and you know, that sort of thing. If you gather 100 of these things, they can turn into a primal infusion, an optional crafting reagent that, as you can see, it can boost the item level of a crafted item like this shield. Don't pay mind to what these item levels really mean at the moment, but the base item level of this shield is a 393. This reagent will bump it up to a minimum of 406 or higher depending on the crafter's skill, and I'll talk more on that later. Finally, you need some Primal Molten Alloy, a high-level reagent that is created by gathering a bunch of stuff, so let's take a look at that recipe real quick. The Awakened Earth and Fire are kind of reminiscent of primal modes, so gathering 10 rousing versions of this item will give one of these awakened versions. Flux is familiar to blacksmiths, but note that the 2 ores at the bottom can vary in quantity, which ultimately affects your crafting skill and the final item level of your finished product. For this example though, we're going to just work with rank 1 quality materials. Let's go back to the shield crafting screen. You can see that we have everything that we need to make the basic version of this shield. Done. That's the video. Thanks for I'm kidding. At the moment, we can make a 393 version of the shield at the most minimal quality. You can see on the crafting details to the right over there, the recipe difficulty of 325, while your crafting skill is only at 68. Crafting skill is based on a number of factors, with a limited breakdown right here. 28 is our actual crafting level, that's also reflected at the top of the window here, while the bonus 40 skill comes from the points that I put into these specializations. This crafting skill can go up with profession gear and consumables and other bonuses, but 68 is where we're at. However, this doesn't mean that you cannot make this item, or that you have a chance to fail at it, not at all. It's just that you're more than likely going to make it at this rank 1 quality. You can mouse over and see here what the ranks mean, where a rank 1 provides no bonus, but a rank 5 can give up to a bonus 10 item level. It doesn't sound like much, but if you're working with at most 5 pieces of crafted gear, making them at high quality can add up. This bar here gives a visual idea of where your skill level is at relative to the next rank, and there's actually a chance that when you craft it, it'll be at this better quality, partially thanks to the inspiration stat here. We have a 7% chance for 54 bonus skill points to be applied when you craft this item, which would definitely put us into rank 2 territory. We'll get more into making max rank gear in a little bit, but first let's just focus on the fact that with just this, we can create some basic epic gear, somewhere around Raidfinder level, and this kind of seems to fit with the ideas shared by the WoW team in their blog. Let's explore the optional reagents now, starting with this Infuse with Power option. There are 2 options, the first being a Primal Infusion. It bumps the item level of our shield from 393 to a minimum of 406, higher if our crafting skill is good enough. Primal Infusion, once again, is the item that's made by fusing 100 of this Primal Chaos together. It's the more basic material, so I guess we just need to collect enough of it, making this reagent pretty accessible with regular play. If Primal Chaos and Primal Infusion are earned from doing all sorts of content, this again, it also fits with Blizzard's plan of making heroic level pieces pretty accessible even if you don't play in the most difficult content at all. It's just a matter of how much stuff you get and from where. The other reagent here is called Distilled Primal Infusion, and I'm not sure how to get this, but I'm willing to guess, based on the numbers here, that it's going to be obtained from doing top-end content. So, mythic raid bosses, rated PvP wins when you hit a gladiator rating, completing plus 15s or the equivalent. Maybe when completing all these, we'll get it in the Great Vault or something, but whatever the case, this illustrates the separation of item level between players who run the hardest content and those who run the rest. It's an item level difference of 13. Also, don't forget that there may still be the equip limit of 5 crafted pieces, and I'll leave the opinions to you in the comments. At any rate, both of these reagents increase the difficulty level of this shield, and it reflects in the crafting details, making it that much harder to get that maximum quality level of 5. Moving on to the next optional reagent, you can customize your secondary stats to whatever combination you wish, although the stats are split evenly. This also increases recipe difficulty, but if you use a higher ranked missive, the difficulty penalty is not as big. There are embellishments that you can attach which have different positive effects, like making feasts persist through death, extra armor, and more. Finally, there are finishing reagents that help improve your crafts, like increasing your crafting skill. Unlocking these requires more points put into different specializations as a blacksmith. Now, I want to point something out. Let's kind of pan back and just kind of look at everything here. As it looks right now, if you don't really care about the extra 10 item level that comes with a rank 5 quality craft, you can just fill all these boxes out and still make the item. You can use the cheap alloy, the cheap ore, you can use the best infusion you can find with the bare minimum talent points. Crafting skill does not determine success or failure, it just determines quality. The item itself is guaranteed. The button down there, you can see that it's lit, you can go. What's not testable at the moment, and I'm going to cover this in a later video, is the idea of recrafting, the ability to take an already crafted item to maybe change the secondary stats and the embellishment and to make it at a higher quality without too much extra effort. So you don't have to wait until you have all the pieces all perfect and stuff, you can just take what you've got now and then see how things go in a few weeks. Without access to Valdrakken, the capital in Thaldraszus, I also can't test out crafting orders to confirm the reagents that can be used by the crafter or the client. So it's almost kind of disappointing that there's a very deep and very involved system of adding spec points and using profession equipment, which I don't even have on at the moment. There are consumables and buffs to up your crafting skill and finishing reagents to get this crafting skill get as close to the difficulty that you need, all for the sake of a whopping 10 item level. Now, it's not nothing, it is meaningful, it is impactful. To be honest, quality could easily be too effective, and then players would feel a bit too compelled to work the crafting skill game. So I guess this additional sub-feature is for the crafter who really wants to stand a cut above the rest. Those folks are going to put all their points into the shield bonuses and the other things to make their crafting the best and the most efficient, and people will come to them to make the best shield on the server. But you don't have to do it either. And for people who show up a little bit late into the expansion, the penalty for them, I imagine, may not be as bad as one would think. Now real quick, I want to point out a few more things. Check out this Shield of the Hearth. It's also in item level 393. It also lets you upgrade it to mythic item level. You can customize the stats and all that, but there's no embellishment. At the same time, notice that it has a unique proc, and it requires a different reagent, an Earthen Soul. I have no idea how to get it. Maybe it's a rare drop or a quest. Maybe it's a super special mythic thing that you get. And finally, there's this blue level sword with an item level of 343, which sounds low until you throw a training matrix on it. Like the Primal Infusion, it makes the recipe harder to craft at high quality, but it's overall easier to make, and it requires none of the Primal Chaos reagents. I'm not sure of any other limitations, like if there's going to be an equip limit of 1 for this specific thing, so we're going to have to revisit this later. And now for the takeaways and the feedback. Crafting seems a lot more accessible, like way better than having to make tons of, legendary base pieces for the sake of leveling. Making epic crafted gear in Dragonflight, it still looks like a fairly involved process, but a lot of that depends on how high of a quality that people want to make said gear. Folks can do their usual thing, and heroic quality gear is well within reach, or they can go the extra mile for those coveted mythic pieces at the highest level. It's thanks to the lower barrier of entry that I think even players coming in later into the expansion won't feel so far behind. However, I do feel just a little bit burned that mythic quality gear so far. It seems 100% totally out of reach for non-mythic players, not just because of the principle of it, but because as far as we've learned, there's still going to be an equip limit, and there's still going to be like a weekly limit on how many epic pieces into the market. I say this as a heroic raider with Keystone Master, like if someone wants to gather and farm and craft their way to like a full set, or at least a set of 5 pieces of mythic gear eventually, just let them. Because I bet you good money that they most likely didn't do it so they could encroach on your self-esteem, or to try and replace you in mythic progression, because frankly, it's probably more economical to buy carries. I imagine they do this because, just like others out there, they want to complete those 5 mythic pieces and call it a day, and then they can move on to the next character. They just want to feel done. Otherwise, this still rounds out as a pretty impressive first glance at epic crafts, and this is on top of the wide variety of stuff that crafters can make so far. I'll revisit this topic again when there are major developments or as we get closer to launch, in case you all want to, mentally prepare yourselves for Dragonflight. I appreciate you making it to the end, so if you don't mind, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you later. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.